Oh, whoops. Had some technical difficulties there. I hope everybody can hear me now. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
All right. Hello, everyone. Let me do my read-through again. Welcome to the 5th edition of Deja Vu, presented by Absolute Stone Design. I'm your host, Nathan Heisley. Tonight, we'll be watching your Richmond Kickers face off against Charleston Battery. The USL Pro Playoff Quarterfinals played at City Stadium in Richmond, Virginia on September 13th, 2014. Now I'm pleased to introduce my very distinguished guests. Joining me this evening are Richmond Kickers legend and club leading scorer Matthew Delica and the longest-serving active kicker, Connor Shanowski. It's Saturday night. It's time to talk some Kickers soccer, and I'm glad you guys are both joining me. How are we doing?
Doing well.
Yeah, doing great. Thanks for having us on, Nathan.
Yeah, thanks, Nathan.
Yeah, absolutely. We're excited to do this one. It'll be, as we alluded to earlier on in our pre-production meeting, this will be my second 120-minute game that I'm watching today, if anybody can judge by the flag behind me. As we get the broadcast started, just some house cleaning. Our season finale of Coach's Corner premiered this week. It's available on our official YouTube channel. Will Selden and Darren Sawatsky reflected on life during the pandemic, and they look forward to the USL League One return to play set for July 18th. Also new to the official Richmond Kicker shop is our Mystery Starter Pack. Sorted by size, the Mystery Starter Pack offers 3 out of over a dozen items. Try your luck because there might even be a throwback jersey in there. Starting at $27, they're available for contactless pickup or shipping. Processing and handling fee is extra. And with that out of the way, I think it's time to watch the quarterfinal, guys.
Let's do it.
Roll video, Patrick. All right, so as I was saying earlier, this was the quarterfinals of the 2014 season. With you guys entering the playoffs, you finished the season as the 4th seed. Kind of take me through the regular season and what it was like playing on the team that year.
Go ahead, Deli.
Yeah, this is an interesting one because last time I was on here, Mike Burke was kind of caning me the entire game. But this one's going to be a little bit different because I actually don't come in until the 117th minute, I think. So we can maybe make fun of Connor a little bit during the game.
I was rewatching a little bit. I am prepared.
So a little bit of a change from last time.
That you're coming for me. At least I'll be prepared.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was watching this a little bit before, just to get ready.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see, especially throughout the game as we start out, it's a fun team. It was a fun group. And Nathan, you asked a little bit about the regular season. Yeah, it was a good team and a fun group, and I think we had a good mix of players. So I think as the game gets going, you'll see there's a lot of good stuff that ends up getting played.
Yeah, and just looking through everything.
Yeah, I think,
go, Deli. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say that just like we were saying, there's a bunch of guys here that even from that game I did from 2009, a bunch of those core guys, and like Connor said, it was a lot of good guys and a lot of great team chemistry, and I think that's why we had a lot of success as well as obviously quality.
Yeah.
And so the 2014 season was an interesting one. Of course, you had Orlando City, who were in their final season in the USL Pro before they went on to move up to the MLS, and they ended up actually finishing the league in first. But were ultimately, I believe were they upset in that season in the playoffs? Yes, yeah, that was the year that they lost to the 8th seed Harrisburg City Islanders. What was it like playing against some of those teams? I mean, you had some MLS talent that ended up leaving that year.
Yeah, I think it seemed like, especially the previous year as well, 2013, I believe, we won the regular season, which was awesome. And then Orlando won the cup final, the playoffs. So you could see there was starting to become a rivalry between us and Orlando just because at that time, we felt like we could certainly go and challenge them. They were kind of the standard in the league at that time, but we felt we were right up there with them. Deli, I think you remember the previous year scoring the couple of goals against Orlando at City Stadium in 2013 to clinch the regular season title.
Yeah, no, for sure. Those were some great seasons, and when we went, on some of those long streaks, I think where we went 20, 22 games unbeaten. So it was exciting playing against those teams, against like high quality opponents, and doing so well.
Yeah.
And Sue's asked if I'm in bed. I am. I'm in a pretty small river house, and so I got to get in here to have a bit of peace and quiet.
Doing some R&R this weekend.
Yeah, just getting away from the usual scene of just kind of video calls in the house. So Richard just mentioned about the gold numbers. Yeah, I actually really like the gold numbers. It's one of the few jerseys I have hanging in my at home, and this was an important season for me, because I think back earlier I scored my 100th pro goal, so I kept the gold jersey, which was a really nice one.
It is a good look.
Yeah, I think they look really sharp, especially if you're right there in person. But we also had another comment in there, and from being up in the press box, I think it would probably drive me crazy, because I'm a pretty colorblind, and it would give me some problems, I think.
Yeah, I guess that wasn't something us players didn't bother us.
Yeah, it's always style versus function, like the numbers are, I guess, technically for us up in the press box, but look good, play good. I think that's the important thing.
Look, Connor, when you were watching, did we get off on the better foot here in this game?
I think so. Yeah, I think you'll see. We do go through a good few patterns of play. I think I'm about to give one away, actually, so you can cane me at any point if I do. There it is. No, but I think we did get off probably the better foot. And I think we ended up scoring pretty early, so it was a good start from us. Start well, end well, right?
Yeah, for sure. Charleston's always a tough game. That whether you're playing them home, away, regular season,
yeah,
and obviously playoff games, and anything can happen.
You can see they had a good team as well.
To get off a good start. I obviously pride myself with my aerial game, but I think this season actually, where I did score quite a few goals, and I would say probably 85% of them were actually with my head, even though I did have some seasons where I scored with my feet.
We'll have to check with our stats and information department, but it does look like you scored 16 goals in that season, which is good for second in the USL Pro that year, behind Kevin Molino, who scored 20 goals for OCB to get the Golden Boot.
Yeah. I think we were pretty close, and I ended up getting injured near the end of the season, and he went on and scored like had a hat trick, I think, in one of the last games. So
yeah. So if you stay healthy and he doesn't goose his numbers, probably taking home the Golden Boot that year.
I was feeling good that year, yeah. It was one of the seasons where I worked the hardest in the gym, so it was interesting. Like some years where I didn't concentrate on the gym and weightlifting as much, and this season I actually did, and I think it paid off. I think I was a little bit stronger, and was scoring goals. So who knows if I'd been able to finish out the last few games.
Deli, I'm surprised you're going to take that, because when we used to play horseshoes before, I think we played like every Friday that year in 2014. And your feet were pretty soft, man. You had a good horseshoe game.
I tell you what, we were tough to beat when in horseshoes. And you're right. Like, I mean, that's all got to have a nice soft touch and a deft chip. So
right.
I was always up in there for that game. It was also a bit mental too, though, because you could get in people's heads. So there was definitely a mental side to that game as well.
You did that well. I think you were probably the best horseshoe player, and I think I was up there 5v2 maybe.
Is it a state secret? Who was probably down in the bottom of the horseshoe players?
Deli? Who were the lower ones that we used to pick on?
Oh, I mean, definitely. If Yombi was playing horseshoes, he was struggling for sure. So I know he was supposed to be on here tonight. So.
Yombi could absolutely ping a ball, but he didn't really have the short range chip, did he?
Yeah, no, it wasn't in his arsenal.
Yeah. He could certainly strike it.
But he could hit a laser over a long. Struggled with that, like, that little chip.
So getting back to the game just a little bit, as everybody probably knows, of course, Charleston's one of the kicker's oldest rivals. Both literally teams both started out very, very close to each other in 1993. But then on the field too, there's a regional rivalry going on with both teams. So what was it like having to face them in a playoff elimination match, especially when they were the 5th seed? So they were right behind you guys, I think, probably in terms of, league record, just kind of how they played all of that.
Yeah, I mean, for when I started playing in 2004, we had battles with them throughout. So, I mean, like this is 10 years later, still kind of battling them in the playoffs. So we had lost in a championship to them where we were up a man, and that was another one. I think the year after we won the championship in 2009. So it's always been every single year playing against them. We were always good teams. Both teams were always playoff contenders, championship contenders. So for me, it had always been a big rivalry on the field.
I think something I noticed as well, especially in those couple of years, particularly 2013 and 14, it seemed like we were pretty similar in style of play in terms of there was a good veteran core. It seemed like we could mix it up in terms of going long and also kind of mixing in some possession as well and being able to play underneath a bit. So you always felt like I think in this game in particular, they had Dane Kelly up front, which was similar to, kind of what we had in Jason Heisley and Deli, somebody that could really work and put your center backs under pressure. So you always felt like you had a long option. But then, I know Charleston had, I think, Justin Portillo in midfield who could play and get on the ball. We had Asante and Luke Bercoloni in this game that could really play as well. So it always felt like we were similar in style.
All right, and we got the first goal of the game right here.
Yeah, good free kick from Sasha. Sasha's always been able to hit a good ball, and then followed up on a rebound. So
and that's got to be a killer for the goalkeeper. I mean, he gets a hand on it, and it's still not enough.
That's right. So, yeah, it looks like we did start off on the front foot. Good goal.
I didn't see who ended up scoring that one. Who got on the end of that?
Colin Martin, I believe.
Was it? Okay.
Yes, it was Colin Martin who scored that game.
Yeah, and impressive for him, like coming in. Like he's a young lad. Coming into a game like this. So a lot of us were a little bit older guys. Like I said, I've been playing Charleston since 2004, so pretty impressive to come in and have an impact like that.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Nathan.
Well, and it looks like, I mean, you guys get the goal, and then you're already starting to press and try and get that second one. Looks like they were able to get the ball forward a little bit there, but just. Right there, it was, I believe, Jalen Robinson just with his hair on fire trying to go get that second goal there for, what was it, like 30 seconds ago? Well, it looks like we're getting some Ryan Taylor love right now. As a defender, Connor, what was it like having him between the sticks there?
He was great. He was somebody, I think he stepped in. I don't remember if it was on and off, or particularly at the end of this season, obviously, starting in the playoffs. I think he was pretty young at the time as well, but he fit in really well with the group. Just in terms of communication and how he kind of commanded the whole back line from a deeper position as a goalkeeper was really good, and something that, I think normally back then we had a goalie on loan from DC. But Ryan stepped in and did really well in terms of the communication and just fitting in, and I think you'll see he makes some really good saves as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. It was an interesting dynamic having guys come in from DC too, because that we could sometimes have last minute changes, or you train a certain way one week, and then we could have changes the day before a game. And I think the nature of a goalkeeper too, when you're backing someone up, is being able to come in and do a great job when needed, whether it's an injury or something else going on. So, and Ryan came in and was able to, do some great things when he got his opportunities.
Well, we'll have to give a special shout out to Ryan Taylor as well, alumnus of Midlothian High School. He was a grade older than me, but we went to the same high school. I think, if I remember right, he was a pretty accomplished Guitar Hero player. He was in Guitar Hero Club. A lot better than me. I don't know why I showed up. But yeah, speaking of DC United loans too, obviously, Connor, you were in, I believe it was your second year on loan.
Yeah,
with the Pickers from DC United. What was that experience like? Being a DC United player, but coming down to Richmond after you had 2 loan spells previously too.
It was really good. I think I consider myself really lucky, and it's something even now that I try not to take for granted. Having guys like Deli, guys like Sasha, guys like Luke Bercoloni, Yambi. Like we've talked about it a few times now, the veteran core of players on this team was awesome to work with. And like at the time I was probably 21, 22. So I was still young myself. And, just having their influence is something that's really helped me even now. Just trying to, take some of the values that I kind of learned from them and what made those teams successful.
Connor, is it different looking back when you were like in your early 20s? Now you'd be considered more of a veteran player, obviously with more experience and whatnot. Is it different being out there, more in more of a leadership role?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it goes quick because it feels like yesterday we were playing in this game, Deli, and it feels like I was 21, 22. Yeah, just yesterday, but it changes quick, and you do have to kind of change. And for me, I know I went through a little bit of a hard time kind of transitioning from a young player to then having being somebody with more responsibility. So it took a little bit, but I've become a little bit more comfortable with it now. But yeah, it can be tough at times, and that's just part of it. You have to kind of take that responsibility and be a leader, and make sure that you're a good example for the younger guys that are coming in now.
Yeah, for sure. Sometimes it's just about helping, culture and keep that just on a day-to-day basis, and training and all, just the little things like that. So
yeah,
all of that kind of factors in, I think, outside of just being on the field on a game day.
What was it like for you, Deli, having, somebody like myself, like Colin? I think Michael Seaton joined us a lot this year, and we were all younger guys from DC. How was it, kind of taking us in and, us joining an already really successful team and an already really successful core group of veterans like yourself and Sasha and Yambi and all those guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was just like I mentioned before, it was a little bit difficult at times when you would make changes last minute, but I also think that we had a good core group of guys that, you know, and we were friends and we had good chemistry, and so we understood the situation. And so when you know, I felt like you were part of the team, and so you know, I think that was great to see from everyone on the team, and we were very professional about it, which was good. And then you know, the big part at the end of the day was we were out there to win games, and you know, and to put points on the board and to win the championship, and we had a quality team and played some great stuff. So
yeah.
So that, you know, that's one of the ultimate deciders too.
Yeah, you could see, like, even just that last passage of play, Colin Martin received the ball, you know, a nice little turn and plays wide to Sasha. Like, you could see some of the talent that he in particular had, and it was obviously fun to play with guys like that. And it probably helped him and, you know, hopefully myself earn the respect of the group when we did play well and when the team was winning.
Sorry about that. It turns out when you're doing a live broadcast, sometimes you get a phone
no,
call.
absolutely. And that's, I think that's the big thing. Is like, anytime you're playing, like you get respect from your teammates by you know, by working hard and putting in a good shift, and when you do that, you know, everyone can see it. So that was definitely one of the good things, and you guys brought a lot of quality, which was awesome.
Oh my goodness.
Specifically the nose?
Shoot, it just, like, I mean, it hit me so quickly that I would say, yeah, right in the nose probably. But that's like my crowning moment in DC in my time there. So I love it.
Yeah, so I think so far, you know, it's been a good start. Like, Charleston hasn't really threatened us. Obviously, in these games, momentum can change at times. I'm sure Charleston end up having some periods where they get on top of us. Obviously, they get a goal back. So, but it was a good solid start, you know, and a playoff game for us here.
So, of course, too, when it involves the kickers and it involves Charleston and Battery, especially during this time period, you've always got that coaching matchup of Lee Kalishala and Mike Anhauser. Did you guys ever get a vibe that, you know, there was any kind of rivalry between those two, between Lee and Mike?
Go ahead, Deli. You probably know.
Yeah, I mean, Lee's obviously a very competitive person, being a former player. So I think that would be the case against anyone, but especially, like I mentioned before, just the history of Richmond and Charleston, being on two of the first teams around, and being two solid squads throughout the years. So that, you know, that I think that put even more emphasis on that rivalry. So yeah, you would definitely see that for sure.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And I think like you said, Deli, Lee was competitive no matter who we played. And I think he did a really good job of kind of having that extend to the group. So, you know, it was a really competitive group of all of us. And, you know, he really brought in, whether you were on loan from DC or you had been there for the last 10 years, somebody like you, Deli, or Yambi, who had been there for a while, that, you know, this team is going to be competitive and we're going to have a lot of guys fighting for positions. And, yeah, it certainly felt like it extended all the way into the team, but it started from Lee and his competitiveness.
Well, and certainly when we do the 40,000 feet view in maybe 2 decades from now, and the USL recognizes all of its history, you know, you're going to have like Lee Kalishala and Mike Anhauser as kind of those two pantheon coaches in the beginning stages of the league, and even Bob Lilly, all those guys.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You see, even though in the last couple of minutes now, Charleston a little bit more dangerous, had a couple of looks. Ryan had to make a good save and another dangerous moment there. So
he was always hard to play against.
it's one of those things where these games change in a second.
Lee and Verkalone having a few words with the ref there. Almost Mike Burke-esque, right?
There's the Red Army. I'm sure yelling profanity at Charleston.
They probably cheered him because it wasn't a short corner. Yeah, poor Matt Bolduc and Luke Pavone kind of had to answer for that last week. So they were told to go tell Darren no short corners in practice. So we'll see how that goes.
Deli, you'd be a good guy to ask that. What's your take on the short corner?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you froze. I didn't hear the question. You asking if I like short corners?
Yeah. What was your take on a short corner?
I'm okay with it, but I'm a big proponent of you still have to get the ball in the mix. So if you're going to do something, you still have to make sure you're delivering a ball. Even if it is a little bit delayed with a short corner. It was very frustrating short corner and end up then recirculating around the back or whatnot. So if you have a good set short corner, but you're still getting the ball in or getting, putting it into the danger area, then I'm fine with it. But yeah.
I would say that's probably my idea as well. I liked when there'd be something to kind of change the angle and give us something predictable as attackers to go and try to head. But like you said, it's all for nothing if it doesn't make its way into the box.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially in tight games where you're not necessarily getting a lot of chances. I mean, you really have to put the ball in the mix, and then anything can happen. So,
all right. Looks like we got a viewer question for you, Connor, from Matt Myers. So you spent 2 years early in your career in Richmond, left, and then you came back. What was that transition like, returning to kickers as a vet and a leader after playing those seasons in Louisville?
I think it's good. Anytime you can have a chance to experience something new and experience, either a different coach or a different style of play, a different system, it can only help you grow and see the game in a different light. So, as I started to come back, and something I touch on now, as I get a little bit older and transition into a little bit more of a leadership role, it's cool to have different experiences to take with me, both good and bad, because there's been some bad moments in my career as well, but it's all helped me learn and, hopefully become a better player and a better leader.
Yeah, and I had the same thing. I played 2004 and 2005, and then I had a 3-year stint in Rochester, so came back in after that in 2009. And my return back was that season where we won the championship. So it was a great return and definitely a different feel on being more of a veteran player and having a few more seasons under my belt. So the first couple of years was definitely just kind of being out there and kind of assimilating and learning from guys around me. So definitely a different feel, the first couple seasons versus coming back in 2009.
All right. And of course, for viewers watching, by all means, in the comments, if you guys got any questions for Deli or Connor here, we are able to answer them. If it's about soccer, if it's just about what Deli's eating right now, any of that, shoot them our way, and we'll be able to help you guys out answer some questions.
Yeah, I didn't actually. I skipped lunch, so I've got dinner sitting here. So I'm gonna munch on some dinner while we're doing that.
Oh, good. We can't have you cranky on the broadcast. Well, I don't know. Maybe it would help. We'll see.
Yeah, and it's actually pepper steak, and it looks great. But I requested my girlfriend's here; she's cutting it up for me, so I don't have to. So I can just have nice bites.
Deli, you used to do that to rookies on the road, didn't you?
That may have been the case, yeah.
I think Deli bullied me a few times on away trips and either in some sort of game or some sort of bet. You were always, you were the king of the cards table, weren't you?
We had some guys. It was always the same guys in the back, so we would try and loop in different people. Yeah. So I'm sure we gave you a hard time, Con.
So this is 2 broadcasts now that we've done, Deli, where cards have gotten brought up. Were you like the Michael Jordan of the Richmond Kickers?
Put it this way: if we were playing, I mean, it was very typical for us to drive back on the kickers bus. So we would play games in Harrisburg, Rochester, different places, and we would basically be on the bus driving through the night, get back to City Stadium at 4, 5, 6 in the morning sometimes. And so there's always a core group of guys that would basically stay up and play cards and have a beer afterwards. And Lee sometimes didn't like it, and he'd come back and be like, "Are you guys going to bed?" And we'd be like, "Yeah, maybe in a bit." And typically we'd pull into City Stadium in the middle of the night and we're still playing cards. And so there was a core group of those guys, and I was definitely one of them. I will tell you this actual season, I think Shea Spitz, who I'm not sure if he was injured in this game, but there was one game where we got back. It was like, and we hadn't finished the game, so we actually put the cards out on the hood of his car, and we played. Everyone was driving off to go home and sleep, and we were still playing cards on the hood because we had to finish this particular game that we were in. So,
Deli, speaking of joining the Kickers early, leaving, and then coming back, I think I left, and it coincidentally was right when you owed me some money for cards. Did you that at all? Or?
It's funny. I actually pulled up my notes the other day and was scrolling to have some of the thing there. And I think your name was up there, but I think you're mistaken. You were owed money, but not from me. So
I don't know, man.
But I do remember every time I would see you or get a message, you'd be like, am I owed something?
Yeah.
We're gonna have to hire a collections officer now for the Kickers.
Right. I need to find out who I can speak to about that, because it's been years and Deli still hasn't paid me.
Just have to do a live Venmo real quick. All right, so we got another question actually from our producer, Patrick Wood. Shout outs to him for not wanting to get on camera. So he asks, what was it like playing with a guy like Alex Lee who didn't take anything from anyone?
Well, yeah, Alex, but he's a good buddy of mine. Like I got along with Alex really well. He actually, funnily enough, throughout his entire career playing with Richmond, never assisted me for a single goal, and he had great service. Like I had guys like Sasha and Berkey that set me up with feels like countless goals over the years, and we joke around that we literally never had a single connection for a goal, which is pretty funny. But Alex was a fierce competitor, very athletic. He could, he'd go in for a 70-30 type ball where he's the 30% and he would always somehow come out on top. So he was very, very passionate, very athletic, great guy to play with. So I always enjoyed playing with him. It's just that was one thing that always stood out, that we we never ended up connecting on a goal. And there was one year, the year we played Wilmington, and the game got rained out at halftime and ended up 0-0. And he put a ball across for me, and something happened, and my foot got stuck or something, and it was literally a tap in from 2 yards out, and didn't go in. So clearly, that was never destined to happen after that one.
We'll have to get you both out of retirement just that way you can fix this wrong, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's a good question. Who do I think will stand out this year? I would say a couple of people have impressed me in the early days. I'll give a couple of names. I would say Stanley Alves. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Nathan, am I saying that right? Alves or Alves?
I believe it's just Alves, yes.
Alves, okay. He's someone that's really stood out to me and kind of what he's capable of. And Deli could, hopefully Deli will watch him play a little bit this year. But he's a number 9 in the fact that he's almost traditional number 9 that can do a lot. He can hold the ball up. He's good in the air, but also good with his feet and can run, can play back to goal, can run the channels. So he's really impressed me. And then the other name I'll give is Wahab Akwe, who was our all-league nominee last year with Joe Gallardo, but Wahab as well, who's back this year with us, and Joe's moved on. But Wahab's always been somebody who's a fierce competitor, has a lot of really good attributes, and someone I'm really looking forward to seeing how he grows this year in his second year with the Kickers.
Yeah, I'd say that's one piece of the team too that's really special, even compared to last year, because I feel like we were running on empty a little bit as far as who was available at center back, especially when Boubacar Keita ended up getting recalled. So it was, we've got a really good crop of defenders this year. I'm looking forward to seeing how you guys all play on the back line.
Certainly. That's actually my money. The money that he won't pay me is going to steak and beach houses.
No, actually, it's not my beach house, and I didn't pay for the steak, luckily. So it's funny that I actually was just read something about you don't necessarily need to buy yourself a boat. You just need to have a good friend that has one. So that's in this case. They make steak, and I can come to their beach house.
That's you know what, Matt? Like, I feel like a lot of people just take the easy way out, and when they'll like, if there's a question asking about a specific player, a lot of people just say, "Oh, the whole team's done really well." So I'll never take the easy way out. I'm happy that I went with 2 guys and 2 names in particular. Even if I wanted to say myself, I'm glad I didn't just take the easy way out.
Well, and certainly I can attest to it too. I've been to a couple of practices now, and I think Connor threw out 2 good names. And you know what? We've got a couple surprises for you guys too.
You saw 2 guys just in there, Luke Barcoloni and George, both went on to play at other clubs like Colorado and Louisville. George winning, several championships there, which was great. Great to see. And then Luke went on to be a goal-scoring machine at Colorado, although I think a lot of them were penalty kicks, but they're still goals. They count.
Yeah.
Yeah, and speaking of George, you guys were quite the strike force, combining for 30 overall goals that season. And the Kickers in general were lighting it up. I mean, 67 goals scored with looks like 37 allowed. So it seems like you guys are playing pretty up and down style where maybe one leaks, but you guys are going to score 2 to make up for it.
I feel like. No, go ahead, Deli.
What, Connor?
I was gonna say, I feel like that's an indictment on me as a defender while you're the attacker in the group.
No, I think it's easy to take scoring goals for granted. But but it's always nice when you have several guys that have that capability. And I think we had a lot of guys that were capable of scoring goals on the team, which is great. I think obviously defending is something that's a little easier to do. You just have to break up plays. It's not quite the same skill set as scoring goals. No offense, Connor. but seriously, it's great having people that can step up and score goals from anywhere on the field, and including the defenders. You know, like it's very typical for the centre backs to come up and score goals and corner kicks and whatnot. And so when you have that, when everyone's chipping in, it takes a load off. It takes the pressure off guys that are expected to score as well.
Billy, how's the Wi-Fi at your beach house, man? Because I don't know if it's my Wi-Fi or yours, but something keeps like freezing every time you talk.
It does. I'm not sure, but it could be Patrick's. Is it Patrick running it? So I blame Patrick Wood.
I blame your beach house.
He needs to spend a little bit more of your money on a better internet connection, right? In our private chat, Patrick says, for once, this is not his fault, which I'm sure the Red Army will let him know that it is, in fact, his fault.
Oh, Jessica didn't even like the gold numbers.
She didn't even like the gold numbers.
No. It's funny. I think the players definitely like the gold numbers, but
yeah. I'll actually concede this one. I think you're right, Deli. I think it is harder to score goals and create, and I think it's a more entertaining side of the game. So I will give that to you. I'll say it is harder to score goals, and I think it's right when, like, you know, it's Messi and Ronaldo that get all the recognition. It is tougher to score goals.
Yeah, on the flip side, also there's a certain discipline to defending as well, and there's probably a reason why certain guys don't like defending. So but that's what makes up a great team, is, you know, you have a good mixture of all those types of guys across the board.
So it's looking like in the course of the game now, Charleston's getting a little peskier. Ryan Taylor's had to make a couple saves, including that one where, I mean, I think he deflected that ball like 30 yards away from him out of bounds. Reflecting back on this one, Connor, you know, what are you seeing in this, and how Charleston was able to kind of start to take back a little bit of the game here?
Yeah, I think like Deli alluded to earlier, a team as good as Charleston was always going to get moments, and they were always going to have, you know, chances, and they were always going to be dangerous. And like I said a few times, Dane Kelly was, at this time and for many years, one of the best number 9s in the league. His goal record was really good. He could do a lot and was really a problem for a center back to deal with. So kind of no surprise that they were going to get their spells, and we'll just, you know, see how we deal with it. And obviously they're going to equalize at some point, but we'll see.
Yeah, and at this point, the big thing was obviously getting in at halftime, a goal up, and then kind of regrouping to see what the game plan would be for the second half.
Yeah, it looks like Dane Kelly ranked tied for 7th with 10 goals that season. So he was at some point in the Golden Boot race, like you were saying, and it seems like he was quite the accomplished scorer, especially for a team like Charleston.
You could see even there, like, his ability to hold players off and drop into midfield at times and play a final pass. That's something he was really good at, and made him a problem because you didn't know if he was coming into midfield or if he was going to try to hold you up. He could run into the channels. So he was a really, really difficult striker to play against.
Connor, was there a specific striker that you disliked the most having to play against, like, you know, a speedy forward?
Yeah, I think for me,
big target, like what?
being my size, it was tough to play against someone like him because he could run the channels and do that well, which was probably something that wasn't my strength. But it wasn't, because he could do other things, it wasn't as predictable. And, if it's somebody that can only run, maybe I can give myself an extra yard to be prepared for it. But with him, you didn't really know what he was going to do. So I always say anyone that's a good all-around player is probably hardest to defend against. What about you, Deli? What was the center back type that you didn't like to play against?
I think if you were ever man marked, was never fun. Like they would literally just stick to you anywhere you went. That's probably not. That was never fun. But then you kind of have to change your game maybe and just think about dragging them out and creating space for other players. So you just kind of had to read it as it went. But that was never kind of. Never fun, but it makes you could open up space and do different things for other players. Yeah, I don't think they count. If you talk about USL Pro, I did score a bunch in the old USL Division 1 and 2, so they're not necessarily counted when you see some of the stats.
When we get all the stat books together and put the aggregate numbers together, for sure.
Yeah, I think I ended up with like about 120 goals in my career. I know this specific season I scored my 100th, so that was a great milestone to hit. I actually have the game ball. It was against New England Revolution, so I have the jersey from this season and the game ball from that New England game.
Deli, I was going to ask you, speak about Samuel Asante for a second and kind of what he meant to this team and previous teams as well, because I feel like he was one of the most maybe underrated players in those teams, somebody that was really, really good but maybe didn't get the credit or the fanfare that he deserved.
Yeah, no, my first experience of Asante, we played against each other and he cleated me in my upper thigh and left cleat marks down my entire leg. And then that was near the end of the season. And then he joined the team. And for a little guy, he has a huge heart and he's a fierce competitor. I remember in training sessions, even going up for a header, an elbow in my back, would do whatever he could to win balls, and he was just very quick and nifty on the ball. So he was great to play with, and I thought he was a really high quality player, and did some great stuff. And again, just his attitude and mentality was fantastic.
It seemed like that was kind of the makeup of a lot of our midfielders at the time. It was Asante, Luke Vercoloni, Mike Callahan. You would know better about Mike Burke. I didn't play with him, but he certainly seems to fit that mold of maybe smaller in stature, but very good on the ball and very pesky and annoying to play against.
Yeah, no, for sure. And the same, like another one, like Shea Spitz, I think, who played this season or the year prior, was another one like that where, and you could even argue someone like a George. We had a lot of guys like that, and so again, we had like a good combination of all these types of players, and we typically had big, strong centre backs. We had players like Alex Lee and Sasha that could get down the line and deliver great balls, and then we had this combination of hard-working midfielders and forwards. We had some big target forwards in there, and then guys that some quicker guys that were getting behind. So when you have that kind of balance and chemistry, it sets the team up really well. Tiny little tank, yeah.
All right, so we're going into the half here, up 1-0 against the Charleston Battery. What are your takeaways, Connor, from this first half, and kind of what was the vibe that you were getting from it?
Yeah, based on the first half in particular, I think 1-0 is probably a fair result. Maybe we could have got one or two more, actually. It seemed like we came out and started well and pretty much continued that throughout the half. Obviously, we talked about Charleston having a few chances, but I think we'd be happy to get into halftime at 1-0 and looking to put it away before extra time, but that's what Deli was for.
Breaking case of emergency.
Yeah, it's one of those things too. It's a playoff game, so the number one thing is that we obviously want, but the loser of this game is done, and it's a pretty awful feeling. Your season's over, and you've got a long off season usually in the USL to think about that. So now we're obviously, a second goal would be huge for us to try and see out the game, and if they get a goal, it's going to be a battle. So we're definitely thinking about what we need to do to progress and keep our season going.
All right. Well, we are going to take a halftime ourselves. So everybody watching, get your questions ready for the second half for this 5th edition of Deja Vu presented by Absolute Stone, and we will be right back.
When building our home, I knew that the stone was going to be the absolute foundation to our house. I knew it needed to be durable, but also I wanted it to be beautiful. I love working with Absolute Stone Design because their customer service is top-notch, their staff is super friendly, and most of all, they truly care.
Come explore Absolute Stone Design's reimagined showroom, featuring our all-new shower and flooring galleries. No dream home is complete without Absolute Stone Design.
Most auto insurers love when you have 2 cars, and they love it even more when you have a driveway full, because they get to charge you more. At Elephant Insurance, we believe the more cars you have, the more you save. We call it the Elephant Multi-Car Discount. It's like buying in bulk, and you can save up to 25%. Take control of your car insurance. Quote online today and see what you can save at elephant.com.
You are the center of a universe. That's what we've learned in 160 years serving our community. Everybody means the world to someone. So when you're in here, or if someday you find yourself in here, and when all you can think about is the world that revolves around you, we'll be a world that revolves around you too. Bon Secours, healthcare for the universe of you.
Most auto insurers love when you have two cars, and they love it even more when you have a driveway full, because they get to charge you more. At Elephant Insurance, we believe the more cars you have, the more you save. We call it the Elephant Multi-Car Discount. It's like buying in bulk, and you can save up to 25%. Take control of your car insurance. Quote online today and see what you can save at elephant.com.
When building our home, I knew that the stone was going to be the absolute foundation to our house. I knew it needed to be durable, but also I wanted it to be beautiful. I love working with Absolute Stone Design because their customer service is top-notch, their staff is super friendly, and most of all, they truly care.
Come explore Absolute Stone Design's reimagined showroom, featuring our all-new shower and flooring galleries. No dream home is complete without Absolute Stone Design.
You are the center of a universe. That's what we've learned in 160 years serving our community. Everybody means the world to someone. So when you're in here, or if someday you find yourself in here, and when all you can think about is the world that revolves around you, we'll be a world that revolves around you too. Bon Secours, healthcare for the universe of you.
All right, everyone, and we are back for the second half of the 5th edition of Deja Vu, presented by Absolute Stone Design. Right now, the Kickers hold a 1-0 lead over Charleston Battery in the 2014 USL Pro Quarterfinals being played at City Stadium. And we had a little double screen of Deli there as he takes care of his technical issues.
I switched over from my laptop to see if I got some better service there.
All right. Well, it works. So as we head into the second half, kind of just walk me through, what was the plan of attack? Kind of what was Lee saying in the locker room during that during the halftime?
I can't remember for the life of me what he said, but I do know that I think I mentioned last time. Sometimes you come in and he'd yell at you and you think you'd had a great half, and other times he did the polar opposite. I think in this case he would have stayed pretty calm and just talked about what we need to do to to get through this game. So we'd come up with a little bit of a game plan, what to expect, any fine tuning, and then obviously wants us to go out and get a second goal, still wants us to attack and score more goals if possible.
Yeah, I would say that's about right. I think he'd be pretty pleased with that first half. And like you said, Deli, though, it was one of those ones where we were never really sure what sort of treatment we were going to get at halftime, whether we were going to get yelled at or a pat on the back. So I can't remember exactly myself, but I knew to always be on my toes.
That just threw me off. It looks like the clock guys for the broadcast are having a little bit of trouble here. They're not sure what time it is in the game.
Deli, being someone that's, stepped away from the game a little bit, but obviously I'm sure you're still involved and still able to watch and see the growth of the league and the USL in particular. What do you think the changes have been like? Do you think the league's made a lot of progress in the past couple of years? What's that been like from the outside?
No, I mean it's gone through some tremendous growth, and it's been fantastic to see. And you can see now with how big the league has gotten, and teams getting their own stadiums and different things, and like the different initiatives they have in place. It's really fantastic to see. And it's come such a long way. I think the game in North America in general has come such a long way since I've been here, and since 20 years now, the year 2000. It's pretty incredible to see how far the game has come, and the USL has been a big part of that.
You can see as well, like just rewatching this game, there was still a lot of quality. I know there can be a little bit of recency bias when you look at, obviously something like USL and how much it's grown. But I think some of, players like yourself and, guys in Charleston in the league at this time really did a good job of helping the league grow. You can see the on-field product is good.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Well, I feel like what's always made the USL special too is it's filled with like a lot of American players that are either about to take the next step or are maybe coming down from, the MLS. And then it's peppered in with all these, international players that have just as much quality, and, have a choice in like probably what leagues they could play in. And they've decided to come to the US. Especially like when you look at this team, obviously you've got Yambi, who is a huge part of the team, him not being from the US, Deli, yourself. I think that's always what's been cool about how you can have just this nice culmination of, kids who played in college, and then you've got guys who have come from overseas and, build a team together.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, I remember back in my VCU days, I had no idea if I was going to get an opportunity to play, and came and watched the Kickers while in college, and it's one of those things that you just have to you keep plugging away and working hard and hope you get an opportunity. And I think, like we had mentioned in the previous broadcast, a lot of guys that are not necessarily in it for the money. We're playing because we love the game and we're getting to do something that we love, and that's what a lot of these guys on the field have in common. And to be able to go out there and represent like your hometown or wherever it is you end up playing is fantastic, and you get to do something that you love, and the fact that you even get paid money to do it is pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Although it was pretty common to go through airports in different places, and people would be like, "Oh, you guys are like semi-pro, and you're going to play in a tournament and different things." Like it was pretty funny having some conversations in airports and different places throughout the years.
I can assure you, Deli, that has not changed.
They don't have you flying first class yet, Connor? Giving you the Wayne Rooney treatment?
It's hard for me, like when I get asked, what are you guys doing in town? It's hard for me not to say, oh, we're here for the tournament. It's one of those ones
we had some guys too that would say something like, oh, we do water polo or we're volleyball, or they would just make something else up just to not have like an awkward conversation.
I think we had one guy say that the K was for karate.
You can use the K for a lot of things, it doesn't just have to be the Kickers.
That's right.
Was that ever an experience that you had, Deli, where like when you would go back home having to explain kind of the intricacies and the differences of like how we play soccer here in the US versus, how they do it in England with the association system and all that?
Yeah, I mean the one of the big differences, at least earlier in my career, was even the scheduling. Like we would play back-to-back games. I mean, I had times where we would play in Rochester on a Friday night and play in Atlanta on a Saturday. I mean, like we've done some pretty crazy travel, and that's one of the other things is seeing how that's another way that the league has developed and just becoming a bit more professional, and how that it's very difficult to play back-to-back games is unheard of over in Europe, and even you hear them complaining when they play games like on a Saturday, Monday, or different things like over the Christmas break and whatnot. So that was one thing when you explain like some of the scheduling different things that people would kind of scratch their heads at, but that's definitely improved throughout the years.
Yeah, I feel like that's always one of the defining parts of the American pro soccer experience. When you're watching the European stuff and you see teams drawing in the Europa League and they're like, oh man, we got to get on a plane and fly for like 5 hours to a Central or Eastern European team, and they're an English team. And for most teams that you have to play here in the US, you're doing like a 4 or 5 hour flight. Like it's just the usual for us versus, overseas. For the most part, it's a pretty quick trip.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I'm used to driving and traveling quite a bit now for work, and in the UK, a 2 or 3 hour trip was like a pretty long drive that was uncommon. But over here, that seems like nothing. So it's just the sheer size of the US, and the USL has always had teams from the West Coast across the East Coast, and we even played games in Puerto Rico and Antigua and places like that. So it was pretty unique, and like the travel schedule, and we would do 10, 12-day West Coast trips where you go play Vancouver, Seattle, Portland, and be gone for 10 days. So very different to how it's done in Europe.
I didn't know we had one of those.
I mean, the Kickers sleeper bus was pretty legendary. So guys would tell you about that. The downside of the Kickers bus was, it was sometimes nice to go stay in the different cities and experience them and get to go out and have a beer or something afterwards. And the games that we had the Kicker bus, we would just get straight on the bus and drive back, like I mentioned earlier. So. But then at the same time, it was pretty unique. Like we could leave the day before a game and sleep on the bus comfortably, and so there were pluses and minuses to it. But anyone that had experienced the Kickers bus would definitely have some stories.
Yeah, I think I can personally attest that the private jet is broken right now, because I was supposed to go on the Toronto trip last year, and Bulow ended up taking an extra player instead. So just missed out.
And if I'm not mistaken, we did a sleeper bus trip up to Canada, either Toronto or Montreal. So. There were times where we would fly obviously to the West Coast, but it was we've definitely taken the bus on some pretty long trips.
I think it's important to mention, like kind of what you said, Deli. There was positives and negatives to it. Obviously, the travel and the amount of time you'd spend on the bus was something that wasn't always enjoyable. But I think the impact it had on the culture of the team was pretty profound. Especially when, like you said, we'd have guys playing cards and talking about the game. Well after we had finished, or especially if we won and we were able to get a beer or something like that, it definitely made it an enjoyable experience, and something that brought the group really close, because you knew you were spending a lot of time together, and you wanted to make sure. I think before every single game, the team talk would have been like, "We've got an 8-hour ride on the bus back. It's going to be much more enjoyable if we win."
Oh yeah, that was one thing. That obviously the bus is pretty quiet and somber after a loss. So yeah. It was always nice. That's one of the things about obviously playing in professional sports is it's really result oriented, and so when you're winning and scoring goals and getting clean sheets and everything's great, and then but there were obviously times when you had a poor performance or you would lose games, and then they'd be pretty quiet bus rides home for everyone. Yeah, I know. Henry, that happened at least two or three times that I encountered, where we wedged the bus under the lobby of a hotel. I know it happened in Harrisburg. There was one game we parked the bus out in the parking lot. We're getting ready to go to the game the next day, and a bunch of cars had parked in front and behind the bus, and so it was stuck and we couldn't get to the stadium. So we had to order a bunch of taxis to get to the stadium on time to start warming up. So that happened too.
I think my worst bus experience, it must have been like 2 or 3 in the morning coming straight home after one of the trips. And I think we had lost, and the bus breaks down on 95, like just maybe 15 minutes away from the stadium. So we're just dying to get home, dying to finally get some sleep, and the bus breaks down, and we're like walking on 95, and it was just miserable.
Yeah, that didn't sound like a fun trip.
No.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the bus, so right now, all I can picture is like the bus from Major League when the owner takes the plane away from him. Am I onto something there, Connor? Or is that pretty close?
I don't know if I'll get a hard time for this, but I don't think I've seen the movie Major League.
No.
I think you're onto something.
All right, hey Patrick, cut the feed. We're gonna watch Major League instead because it's classic. I don't even like baseball, and I love that movie so much.
Oh, there it is.
Oh my goodness.
that is the Kickermobile right there.
Why don't we still have that?
So, I mean, it slept. I think you could sleep up to 24 people on it. Obviously, the back was reserved for card players only. So,
of course.
And there was a door, so pretty much, if you were in the back half of the bus, you were kept up by the guys playing cards and whatnot. And then the ones that wanted to sleep would go to the front. So it was pretty typical for Lee Cowlishaw to get himself just a glass of red wine, and he'd be one of the guys that would want to be in bed early.
All right, so not quite like the Major League bus, but we're kind of close there. We'll put it on your list, Connor.
Okay.
It did have satellite TV, so we could watch. Sometimes there was games on and whatnot we could watch, but that was a bit spotty. It would be in and out a lot.
Yeah, kind of like your Wi-Fi, Deli.
Is it better now or no?
It is actually. Yeah,
it's been a lot better. Yeah,
I'm holding my iPhone up, so my shoulder's gonna get tired, but at least I got a better connection.
Yeah.
That was funny. I remember watching games on the back of the bus. I think we'd watch some of like the NBA playoffs, and it'd be a really close game, and then the Wi-Fi or the satellite would go out, and you'd just be like, the ball would be in the air, and you weren't sure if it was going in, and it'd come back, and you'd realize, you scored, your team scored or didn't score. It was pretty funny.
Sounds like an illegal stream of a Champions League game.
Yeah.
Oh man, the bus is apparently up on eBay for $60,000. Should see if it's still available. Bring it on back. Might need it.
I think it may have done a few trips up actually for other things too. Like it may have ferried some fans up to some like DC games or different things where you could buy a ticket and go up for the day and do that. So it's definitely done its fair share of work for the people of Richmond.
One stop all the way up to RFK.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Roderick, who was the driver, we called him Hot Rod. So he's another legend that many will remember. So I think he did some, tried to put the bus to use outside of when we weren't using it for away trips.
Well, if we got any DC United fans located here in Richmond that have got a war story from their own trip on the Kickers bus, leave them in the comments. We'll read them out if they're appropriate. So at this point, I guess we'll go back to the game a little bit since we are watching that. It certainly seems like Charleston's really starting to grow into the game. They're a little bit more on the front foot. And for those keeping score at home, they know what's coming in about a minute. Can you kind of remember in the moment, Connor, what you were thinking and feeling?
Yeah, I think it would just be, something along the lines of, at some point they're really going to have to start pushing. Them being 1-0 down, it'd be something that I think in any game for the last, 30 minutes or so, you'd be really trying to hammer in on not making a mistake, maybe starting to switch over to, a little bit of a conservative approach, but also still trying to get forward and see it out and hopefully get yourself another goal. Obviously that wasn't the case, but that's kind of always the thinking when it gets to about the 60th minute mark. Just really trying to see it out, make sure that you're laser focused so you don't make any individual mistakes.
Just going back to horseshoes. Obviously, I was on the bench for this game, so I'm sure I would have probably won horseshoes at halftime.
Let's get the important stuff out of the way, huh, Deli?
So yeah, good strike there. Obviously, looked like near post top corner, so a tough one for Ryan. And now we kind of knew we were in for a battle for the rest of the game.
It's probably why you scored the winner, Deli, because you were feeling good from horseshoes.
I'm sure.
And it looks like from the – oh, man, they actually had some fans travel too. See, I missed the regional rivalries that we have in the lower leagues. But it looked like Yambi was a little upset. And, I mean, it was a good move by the striker there to kind of go into the inside and then cut it back out to his right foot and be able to put it into the top corner like that. So –
yeah, I'm sure I don't know if Sasha's watching, but Sasha looked like he got faked out pretty hard there, so he'd be a little bit upset with his defending. But still obviously a good strike after he got past Sasha.
Sasha, if you're watching and you want to pop on, shoot Patrick a text message and can explain yourself. Oh, man. OG Kickaroo. Haunting. So at this point, with the game at 1-1 and knowing that it's going to be a battle, I mean, are you guys getting any feedback from Lee from the sidelines of anything to switch up or things that you were seeing from Charleston that you were trying to negate then?
I don't think necessarily there'd be much change needed at this point. Obviously, as it stands, we're not knocked out. We would go to overtime. So I think if Charleston got another goal, then you would start seeing some major changes with some substitutions or tweaking some things. But for right now, we probably are going to stick to the game plan for the next few minutes and just kind of weather the storm and then at that point kind of adjust things as needed.
Yeah, I'm sure they were, Charleston's probably thinking at this point, it's a good chance for them to get some momentum and really kind of put us under pressure for a bit. You can see that a little bit here, but I think having an experienced group, having Yambi, having Sasha, George, Luke. We had a good group that wouldn't be too rattled, and kind of as Deli said, just try to get the reins on the team and say, look, we're not out of it. We're right in, a good position to still get a goal.
Oof. That was a tough scuff right there. Oh, man. Yeah, it certainly feels like now that the match is tied up, it's even more lively than it already was. And, knowing what occurs later on in the game, too, it's at this point, it's just a battle of wills trying to see who can get the upper hand. And, and I think probably things are getting a little heated now at this point.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that at this point of the game, both teams obviously want to push on and get that goal. And then I think as you get closer to the 90-minute mark, that's when you might be a little bit more conservative. But for this phase, you definitely want to be pushing on, and it's probably going to be end to end a little bit more, trying to gain that advantage and get the go-ahead goal.
Jason Heisley was another really good one to play with. You knew exactly what you were going to get out of him every game. Work rate, effort, he would be willing to challenge any ball. And it made life as a center back a lot easier when you knew that anytime you were in trouble, you could go long and you'd have him to go deal with it. So he was another fun one to play with, especially in this group. Deli, what was it like for you to play with him? You guys are pretty similar in that regard.
Yeah, for sure. I enjoyed playing with Jason a lot. I think both kind of similar players in terms of being a target player. So sometimes I don't think we would necessarily find ourselves on the field at the same time, or there were times where one of us would start, but there were definitely occasions where we did play together, and I enjoyed it a lot. And actually, probably this season we did play together a lot more than most years, and we're dangerous together. And again, it's about kind of having good chemistry and an understanding of what your teammates are doing. And I had that with Jason and a lot of other guys.
It was nice for us as well, knowing that at any point if we needed a goal, we'd have yourself and him to really if we were throwing balls into the box, we always fancied you guys to go get it. With your height and your ability to jump and your physical strength, we always felt like we were in it and could get a goal if we needed, just kind of going route one. So that was always nice to have in our pocket.
Yeah, no, definitely, and that was part of the job. Obviously, was sometimes you're not getting on the end of a ball, but you're still kind of throwing your body in there, and you're putting off. Maybe you just put the defender off enough for he has a bad clearance, and now your teammate is getting on the end of it. So
yeah,
and that was one of those things. Is I think we would both work hard in the box to have those types of things happen.
It seemed like, especially I think you mentioned earlier, we'd have a few really long unbeaten runs in the season, and especially when you're playing away in USL with the travel, especially with it being much more difficult back then. Here's a good chance. Oh, yeah, it felt like, if you were maybe had to rest some guys or whatever it was, and you found yourself in a difficult away game, that seemed to be a plan for us where, like I said, we could go to you two and never feel like you were out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that was actually a great chance. It was took a deflection, so looked like it was going in from Colin.
Yeah.
And I guess that might be an argument for the short corner there.
Nathan, don't stir that debate up again.
Hey, as host, it's just my job to make sure that we have conversation going,
We came to an agreement on that.
Oh, ref actually went to his pocket for that one.
Charleston was actually it was actually John Wilson, who's playing in this game, was my only red card my entire professional career. It was down in Charleston, and there was a bit of a tangle. We had one of the rookies had gotten into it with John Wilson. I went over just to kind of break it up, and ended up, but John and I both got red carded, so that was the only one I had in my career. And I definitely think it was unjust, but what are you going to do?
All right, looks like we have a question from Matt Myers here in the chat. He's going to ask you guys. Sorry, I'm fighting with my producer here. What was your guys' favorite unbeaten run, 2013 or 2014?
I mean, for me, winning the regular season title that season, which was 13, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I would say, for me, I would pick that one. And like you mentioned, kind of the game against Orlando, where basically the winner of that game took home the Commissioner's Cup. If that is that, I think that's what it was called. So that one was for me. In American soccer, having, obviously the playoffs was always kind of the thing that we focused on, but winning that regular season was a big deal, because I mean that's essentially, when you think of like Liverpool, who just won the league, that's a regular season championship. Like that's, you could argue, harder to do. Playoffs, you can go on a nice run, win 4 or 5 games, and you're champion. So for me, it would be 2013, having that regular season title, and winning it in style against Orlando at home.
Yeah, I would say the same thing, Deli. Yeah, that team was really good, and that game in particular, kind of like you said, we had a really big crowd in Richmond at home, and we came out. I think you scored. Did you score both of them pretty early, didn't you?
Yeah, the first one was just a little bit of a deflected ball and just got on the end of it, and then Brian Ownby sped down the left wing and put a ball in for the second one. So we were 2 up, 20 minutes in, and kind of held on.
Yeah, I think we came out really well, and that was, like I said, the crowd was really good in Richmond, and everyone kind of knew we were up for it. And like you said, it was winner takes the regular season. So probably, yeah, my favorite game in Richmond, actually.
Man,
this is very relative to me, because I was actually on both teams in that 2013 season. So it was like really up and down, where obviously things were not going well with DC United, but I'd come on loan to Richmond where things were awesome. And then DC won the Open Cup, so it was like kind of all sorts of emotions, where it was like terrible regular season with DC, but we had the Open Cup, and then fantastic season with Richmond, and then we lost in the playoffs, which was disappointing. So that was a lot.
We kind of were you here? Were you back and forth, like coming in like a day or two before the game? Was that how it was? What was that like with all the traveling back and forth and whatnot?
I got used to it in terms of like, I'd come down either the Thursday or Friday if we had a Saturday game, and come in for a couple of training sessions. So yeah, I was one that did it a lot, which was probably something that I got used to. But then, like you said, kind of fitting in with the group, it was easier having, guys that accepted me and were, willing to have me and all of that, especially, amidst the team that was doing so well. So you guys made it easy for me, and the travel was something you get used to. And when you're young, you end up playing through it a lot more than you would when you're older.
Were you guys carpooling down together, or if there was?
Yeah, it would depend kind of on who was coming down. So, I think there were some games where it was just me coming, and then there was other games where there was a few of us coming. So I think me and Colin probably carpooled to this game, which was fun, and you get to know people and have a couple hours drive. Was cool to get to know guys and know them a little bit closer. So Colin was a good friend of mine, and someone I still consider a good friend.
What was it like when you were told you know, would you be excited to come to Richmond, or were you disappointed that you weren't in the squad for the first team, you know, at DC? What was that dynamic like?
I think initially, I wasn't sure what to expect. You know, when you're with DC, you obviously you want to be there and do that, and you want to be valued there. But as soon as I came, and I came a few times, and like I said, I seemed to fit in, and we were winning and playing well with Richmond, and we were somewhere where I could play and get a lot of game time. So it made it a lot easier. And I think Richmond in particular, just with the crowd and the field and City Stadium and the Red Army, it was like you still felt like you were getting into a great professional game. So you ended up not missing out on a whole lot with it.
I think Sue's asked the question about the new 5-sub rule.
Trying to be like the USL.
Yeah, I've actually been a poor soccer fan recently. I've not been watching, so I need to get caught back up. But I mean, obviously from the standpoint of it's good for players. You get a couple more players in the game now. That was always nice. In the USL, you always felt like even if you're on the bench, you had a chance of coming in the game. And also if your guys needed a rest, or you had injuries, so. It definitely changes the dynamic of the group. Only having 3 substitutions, there's less guys involved. It changes like the chemistry a little bit. So, I think it's a positive thing for the players for sure.
I think especially back then, you knew you had to be on your game early, because with 5 subs, you could be getting yanked off at halftime, much easier than you can when it's only 3. So it was something that you were kind of always prepared for as well.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, Connor, because we talked about that watching the game with Mike Burke and those guys, and that definitely happened to me a couple of times. Actually, got yanked off before halftime. That happened a couple times. So never a good feeling. Although you were told it was tactical and anyone could have been brought off, but just happened to be me.
That was as a center forward, you might have been told it was tactical. As a center back, you were told you were not good enough. You're
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be a terrible feeling getting Jose Mourinho, where he just gets subbed off before even the first half. That's brutal.
Yeah. I mean, if the team is playing that bad, for that to happen, I'm sure it's not just one guy.
Yeah.
In those instances, it must be a pretty poor performance all around. So, but so I guess someone's got to take one for the team.
Yeah, I had a chuckle today watching the FA Cup quarterfinals. In 2 successive games, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was the first manager to do a quintuple substitution. And then he managed to be the only manager that's ever done 6 substitutions today. So we're just writing new history right now as we figure this whole thing out.
That's right.
Another big one too, which is slightly different, is a lot of the games we play over the summer, you're playing in very high heat and humidity, which is a little bit different to Europe, and so. Again, it would be welcome. One, if you're, with the old scheduling of playing many games and playing in the hot weather, I mean, you would need every one of those 5 substitutions.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we certainly know that mid-July or that mid-August game in Richmond or Charleston or South Georgia or something like that. I mean, it's just awful weather sometimes, and it's got to be tough to adjust to. And I'm sure there's been a couple games where you guys are like, man, once they switched to the 3-sub rule, where you're like, really wish you had 5 subs, that way you could take me off, because this is terrible.
Yeah.
I don't know, Connor, did you have a go-to? I ended up finding Pedialyte was the best thing for me to keep me hydrated and not get like cramps and whatnot.
Yeah, I think Pedialyte was a good one. Something I still use now. But it was really difficult. Like you said, with the heat, there was so many different things, and trying to find what was best was always difficult. Like some of the guys would drink the coconut water, Pedialyte. That's what I think I found was best too. Probably Pedialyte.
Yeah, but it's not the cheapest. It's like $5 for a liter of the stuff. So you can easily, and you can go through quite a few of them.
Yeah. Deli, did you ever do a back-to-back where you played extensive minutes on either like a Friday, Saturday, or a Saturday, Sunday in terms of like the schedule back then?
Yeah, I did 290s back to back, like on a Friday, Saturday. I've done that. One playing for the Kickers one year, we played a home and away with Charlotte, so it was like a Friday, Saturday. Friday in Richmond, Saturday in Charlotte, and I actually pulled my hamstring in the second half of the second game.
And still played.
Luckily, yeah. It was luckily it wasn't too bad. I think it was, I was out for a couple of weeks with the strain, but I mean clearly it was too much, and it was. I think we also pulled off either 4 or 6 points in that swing. So it was a good road trip, but definitely a tough one. And so there were several like that. Between 2004 and 2008 for sure.
Yeah, kind of what I was saying earlier as well. Like anytime you went on a long road trip like that, where it takes the whole team to get the results you wanted, it was a huge booster for like the culture and the morale, because it really took everyone, and it took everything you got, like the whole team had. So if any time you could come back from an extensive road trip with a significant number of points, it really could like propel you in the season. And I think that's what really got us going on some of those unbeaten runs was, we'd take a lot of points from an away trip and we'd feel like we could do anything at home.
Yeah, no, definitely. And like you said, having the personnel to rotate, whether it were guys from DC or other players that could come in and do a good job and keep the level high was important to keep that run going.
Well, and using this season as an example, the 2014 season, in the league, you guys sported a 10-3-5 record at City Stadium. So it sounds like you guys were receiving quite the boost out on an away trip, because for the most part, you turned City Stadium into a fortress then when you came back home.
Certainly.
Yeah, I think a lot of teams knew they were in for a tough game when they came to Richmond.
Yeah, and we kind of talked about it in the viewpoint of the 2009 season, but looking back on the 2014 season, what was kind of like the vibe at City Stadium and the crowds and everything like that? I mean, was that a huge boost for you guys, just knowing that you were home, you had the support of the home crowd, and you knew that you were more than likely going to win a game at home too?
Yeah, and I think just like we had talked previously about just kind of the history of the club, we had a team that had always made, at least since I had played in 2004, we had always been a playoff contender, teams that had gone to championship games. We had, quality players. And so with that kind of culture and history, I think everyone felt that. And, every time we went out and played a game, I don't think there was ever a game we ever would have played at home that we didn't feel like we could win. So I know, and I think that was kind of felt across the board for any of the squads throughout the years.
I think even now, maybe less successfully over the past couple of seasons, but the vibe at City Stadium in particular is the best in the league, just in terms of the game day experience and the Red Army. I've always enjoyed playing on a nice big grass field, so there's always a special vibe playing at home.
Yeah, and having a great surface to play on, and being able to go over and celebrate with the Red Army, always a great feeling.
Yeah, and I think that's one of in the modern history of the kickers, like, speaking about maybe last year and this year, since moving to USL League One, I think that's such a huge advantage that we as a club and you guys as players get to enjoy is, we've got all these great new teams that have come into the league, and, it's exciting to see the supporter for just U.S. soccer in general and these clubs grow. But, they know that when they come to Richmond, they've got to deal with a stadium with thousands of people. It's not quite like when you go down to Statesboro, Georgia, or Orlando City B, and there's 45 fans in the stands. It's like, you're coming to a place where everybody is very hostile towards you. And so I think that's cool that these new teams get to come in and, we're seen as the old guard a little bit, but I think that's what makes us so special too, is that clubs can aspire to have what we have, so to say.
Yeah, and it was always tough going when I remember playing back when Montreal, you go play in Montreal and they would have 12,000 fans, in the USL before they went to the MLS. And when you went to play in some of those places, it was enjoyable as a player, but it was also, having the fans like that can be like an extra man on the team. So it's always nice having that support and feeling that energy from the crowd.
I thought it was funny talking to Bulow last year because obviously Forward Madison had the best crowd support outside of us, and the first game that we played against Forward Madison last year we won at Bree Stevens Field, and I was talking to Bulow about it. He's like, yeah, we like playing there because it feels like we're at home, because we're just you're not necessarily hearing what people are saying, you're just hearing how much noise, and it's something that we're used to because we get to play in front of fans.
Yeah, I don't think I was ever put off by fans. You're probably the same, Connor. It's like one of those things you just kind of tune out, and if anything, you can use it to as a good thing, even if you are on the road.
Certainly.
Oof.
Oh, how did that stay out? I think you could see for a while now in this game we've started to make some changes and get back on top, which is good to see.
Nice change of pace there too on the wing. Do you at this point, I mean, it's obviously the 90th minute, do you have a sense of how much time is left? And at this point it's like, maybe we don't want to go to extra time, let's try and nick this goal if we can?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, basically, at any goal at this point of the game, you're going to feel like you're going through. So, and I would imagine that's the advantage here. Connor, correct me if I'm wrong, but the advantage of being the home team, I think Charleston at this point are like, let's get in and regroup for overtime, whereas we want to, kind of push on and get that goal in this instance. So I think that's the big advantage of having the home game in this instance.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And especially with us maybe grabbing a little bit of the momentum in the previous 10 minutes or so, we'd really start to think, okay, well, we're coming down towards the end of it, and we've naturally got the momentum. Let's really have a go for the last couple minutes to see if we can get one before overtime.
Oh, man, Ryan Taylor put his laces through that one.
That's kind of what I was alluding to as well with Jason Heisley. Late in the game, if you got it up to him, he was going to make something out of it. And it was always a nice feature to have in these later stages.
Yeah, I mean, thinking about that as a forward, just Jason being able to get on the end of it, and now everyone else gets a break. Like Connor, you guys have been working hard for 90 minutes, and you get to have a little bit of a breather. If he doesn't do that, they're attacking straight back at you, and now you're on the back foot again. So those little things can make a big deal for everyone on the field.
Certainly, Deli.
Yeah, and it seems like in these final moments too, the back line doesn't dare try and push up and, try and siege the other goal, because it's like you're just going to get countered almost immediately if you lose possession. And it seems like both teams are just plowing towards the other goal at this point.
Yeah, so Yambi actually making a rare appearance in the 18-yard box there. I don't know if Lee would have actually approved of that, but
as a center back partner, I certainly wouldn't approve of it.
Yeah,
I'd be telling him, get back, Yambi.
Yeah.
And of course, on that last offensive sequence for Charleston, of course, it was Javier Cordovez, former Richmond kicker, but before he was one of us, he was one of them. Good player. I'll have to check with our stats and information department, but I do believe didn't Cordova score a goal in one of the games that we did already for Deja Vu? I'll put my finger to my ear here. Talking to my producer.
It's incredible to see Sasha at this stage of his career. He must have been certainly older, but his ability to play, I think he started the game as a left back, and then it looked like he's in midfield now. But just his ability to do that within a game, and especially at his age, to still have the legs to move from left back into midfield, and you can see him pop wide left in midfield a few times to get on the ball and serve it. So that was pretty incredible from him, I thought.
Yeah, I think so. Sasha was my roommate for many years. We played a lot of backgammon together, and he ended up having a calcification in his thigh. So he had basically a bone develop in his muscle, which hindered him a lot near the end of his career. And probably one of the reasons why he had to pack it up. So it's amazing he was able to even get, I'm sure that was probably happening at this point, and he was still out there producing a lot of quality.
And from my perspective, I've certainly gotten a kick out of doing some of, more of these throwback games, because so many of these, legendary players or guys that have just been on the kickers for forever, they stayed in town. And so, I didn't necessarily get to watch them play a lot, but I see them almost every day in the office because they're, youth team coaches and things like that. Like I see before work from home started, I saw Sasha quite regularly. Berkey's in there, Owusu. So it's kind of a neat thing when we're doing these Deja Vus where I get to kind of look back and see some of their best games then, just the guys in the office.
That's Shea Spitz, who came in. He had a solid season, and he was my gym buddy for that year. So when I mentioned earlier about him in the gym, he and I would hit up the gym pretty regularly most of the season.
Deli,
go ahead.
Deli, talk us through what you guys would have been doing in the weight room. Because I know, seeing you in there quite a bit that season, and like you said, how it paid off. What specifically did you guys like doing in there?
Yeah, I mean, we would just, we would try and get in several times a week and just hit obviously all the major muscle groups. And so we would typically have a leg day, just squats, deadlifts, box jumps, that type of thing. And then we would do a chest and back day and an arm day, basically. So just try and hitting all the major muscle groups. And but I've never been maybe a huge weightlifter, and so he kind of got me into it, and I think I did feel physically stronger and faster on the field, even though I don't look fast, as Berkey would say. I was one of those guys that I could move actually, but I maybe look like I'm not moving that fast.
It's the long legs,
Yeah.
That's what I try to tell everyone about myself, Deli, but they don't buy it.
Yeah, and it was unfortunate. Like I had a pretty bad tear against Dayton. It was like a 90% quad tear. So I was lucky I didn't end up needing surgery. But I mean, I was out for 6 weeks leading up to this game. And, you know, I think probably, who knows, maybe had I not been doing that work, maybe it would have been a full tear and I wouldn't have even been able to get back into the end of this game for the 2 or 3 minutes that I did. So,
all right, so we are heading into extra time then. It is tied 1-1 in the 2014 quarterfinals between the Richmond Kickers and the Charleston Battery. We are going to take one quick break real quick so we can pay the bills, and we'll be right back to watch Deli's moment of glory. So stay with us. We'll see you in a few minutes.
Most auto insurers love when you have two cars, and they love it even more when you have a driveway full, because they get to charge you more. At Elephant Insurance, we believe the more cars you have, the more you save. We call it the Elephant Multi-Car Discount. It's like buying in bulk, and you can save up to 25%. Take control of your car insurance. Quote online today and see what you can save at elephant.com.
When building our home, I knew that the stone was going to be the absolute foundation to our house. I knew it needed to be durable, but also I wanted it to be beautiful. I love working with Absolute Stone Design because their customer service is top-notch, their staff is super friendly, and most of all, they truly care.
Come explore Absolute Stone Design's reimagined showroom, featuring our all-new shower and flooring galleries. No dream home is complete without Absolute Stone Design.
You are the center of a universe. That's what we've learned in 160 years serving our community. Everybody means the world to someone. So when you're in here, or if someday you find yourself in here, and when all you can think about is the world that revolves around you, we'll be a world that revolves around you too. Bon Secours, healthcare for the universe of you.
Most auto insurers love when you have two cars, and they love it even more when you have a driveway full, because they get to charge you more. At Elephant Insurance, we believe the more cars you have, the more you save. We call it the Elephant Multi-Car Discount. It's like buying in bulk, and you can save up to 25%. Take control of your car insurance. Quote online today and see what you can save at elephant.com.
When building our home, I knew that the stone was going to be the absolute foundation to our house. I knew it needed to be durable, but also I wanted it to be beautiful. I love working with Absolute Stone Design because their customer service is top-notch, their staff is super friendly, and most of all, they truly care.
Come explore Absolute Stone Design's reimagined showroom, featuring our all-new shower and flooring galleries. No dream home is complete without Absolute Stone Design.
You are the center of a universe. That's what we've learned in 160 years serving our community. Everybody means the world to someone. So when you're in here, or if someday you find yourself in here, and when all you can think about is the world that revolves around you, we'll be a world that revolves around you too. Bon Secours, healthcare for the universe of you.
All right, and we are back for extra time for the 5th edition of Deja Vu. Richmond Kickers versus Charleston Battery, the 2014 quarterfinals at City Stadium. So at this point, we've played a full 90. It's 1-1. Charleston appeared to really try and push for that second goal there for a minute or two, and things kind of leveled out, and both teams had their chances, but nothing happened. So at this point, like I asked earlier, game goes to 1-1. You're not necessarily changing your game plan yet, because at this point, it's still a tie game. Is there any kind of adjustments that you're making for extra time, though, knowing now that you only have 30 minutes left to get that second goal, and not have to go to penalties?
Can I let you speak first, since I'm still not even in the game?
No, I would think we would just be trying to account for some of the changes we've made in personnel. I mentioned Sasha going into midfield, so we'd probably be looking for him to get the ball wide and the service that he can provide. So I think that, and just having a few other changes in the lineup would be something that we'd be trying to highlight and use their fresh legs to the best advantage possible.
Yeah, and this is 30 minutes now, and like we'd mentioned before, it was playoffs. I mean, this is basically what you've played your entire season for. All the work you've done preseason, regular season, comes down to like this 30 minutes. So these are the times you want to step up as a player. So no matter what position you're on the field, you want to come out and perform for your teammates and for the team and the fans. And so these are the kind of moments that you play for, because at the end of the day, if you want to have an impact for your team, this is the time to do it. So, I think that's, at least for this squad and probably any kicker squad, is that you always have that belief that we can do it. I remember even the 2005, we squeaked into the playoffs in 6th place and ended up making a run to the championship. And so in this case, we all believe we can win another championship, and that's what we're out here to do.
Now, before this game, Connor, you were a little bit of a newer pro. Deli, you were a veteran. How much experience did you guys have in like an extra time situation as pros? Like for you, Connor, was this newer for you, and whereas Deli, you might have had a little bit more experience?
Yeah, for me, it definitely would have been newer. Especially the playoff feel that Deli was kind of talking about would be completely new to me at this point. So yeah, just something that I'd have to be really focused on and really trying to hone in on.
For me, I would say that played in quite a lot of overtime games, dating back all the way through like 2004 or 5. Even that 2005 run I mentioned, we had a home and away series with Vancouver where it was 0-0, and we went through on penalty kicks. And same thing. So definitely had some experience like in the playoffs and with overtime. And then again, it's one of those things where sometimes you need a little bit of luck, and you want to just if you get that opportunity to make a play or do something great, then this is obviously a great time to do it.
I'm more curious what is actually for dinner. I hope it's a steak just like Deli had.
Yeah, so I can
you get that cut up for me in little pieces and just fed to me? Deli, how do I do that?
Yeah, no, it was some tasty pepper steak with some potatoes. I actually at halftime I was able to scoff the rest down without being on camera.
There you go.
I don't know how well that would go down with my girlfriend if I asked her to just cut it up and feed it to me.
you just see a fork come in.
From the side.
Yeah, that's been the one issue with these Deja Vu broadcasts at 6:30. It's always like, we wrap these up around 9 o'clock, and all of a sudden, I'm notoriously bad about getting my grocery shopping done in a timely fashion. So I'm usually ordering something for delivery at like 9 p.m. and it's not good. But shout outs to Crazy Ty, who have been hooking me up recently. great.
That, I don't know if you just saw that pass from Sasha, but that was.
I was just going to comment.
Yeah, that's the type of thing Sasha could do. He could put some unbelievable quality, like either with a pass or a cross.
Yeah,
you know, so had a lot of assists. Like, so great left foot that guy has.
Deli, you could probably speak more about that. What was it like? You know, if you saw Sasha getting the ball out of his feet down the left, you know, as a striker, what would be going through your head?
Yeah, I mean that was part of coming back to like that chemistry and different things, kind of knowing what he's going to do. And so, but actually, a goal I scored against Charleston, I think back before 2004 or 5, he whipped an early ball in right behind the defenders, and just they weren't expecting it, and it was one of those where I just peeled off and managed to get on the end of it. And so he would just have this ability to put balls in areas where I don't think the defenders would have any clue that it was going to happen. And so being able to read that or be on the same page was a huge advantage. And so it came down to, I think there was definitely a little bit of chemistry to have those types of moments. But obviously he's got to execute and put, which he could do with the quality that he has.
I think it's a good point as well, what you mentioned, Deli. In the past that Sasha played, it wasn't just crosses. He could pick out a pass, in his own end, whether it was switch and play, kind of similar to how Liverpool's fullbacks do nowadays, where it goes fullback to fullback. Sasha certainly had that, and a few different passes, not just, a cross in his locker.
Just but probably mostly with his left foot, though. I don't know if he had much of a right foot.
All right, we got a question from the producer here. I'll probably throw this one more towards your way, Deli. In an extra time situation, do you think forward players, find themselves in situations where they might overthink and in kind of moments of desperation try and score and, maybe go for an attempt that wouldn't be the best because at this point they feel like the clock's kind of coming down on them?
I mean, if you're a good professional, you're making your decision based on what's best for the team. Mm-hmm. I think if you're a forward and you're confident, you invariably would think that you're going to score, and that's best for the team. So I would say that, it's one of those things. It's like it happens in the blink of an eye. So ultimately, there's a good chance there for Charleston off the bar. But yeah, so I think it comes down to it's kind of the confidence you have in yourself and doing what's best for the team, because ultimately, what you should be putting team first above me wanting to score a goal versus me wanting the team to win is slightly different. But so I think it comes down to just your decision making, and I think so. Sometimes you got to be like you're asking, is that you need to be unselfish if it means you should be just putting a ball across the box instead of shooting it. Hopefully that answered your question. You see, the Charleston here have had a couple of good looks at goal there, so a little bit nervy time. Would definitely not be nice to go down a goal in extra time, that's for sure.
Yeah, and so in your position, Connor, you're seeing Charleston get these shots off that are, rattling off the crossbar. At this point, what are you saying to your fellow defenders as far as tightening things up or making any kind of in-game adjustments there?
Yeah, I'd probably be just saying to the guys, not to get too stretched. I'd continue to be in Luke Bercoloni and Asante's ear just about, closing people down and really, especially if Charleston's on the front foot, sitting in front of the back four and just shutting up shop for a little bit to make sure that we don't concede a goal kind of at this crucial part of the game.
That looked like your horseshoes technique there, kind of.
That is exactly it. Maybe left it a little bit short for the game, but it'd be right on your foot in horseshoes.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm being asked for you guys to do a little bit of a comparison here. So the like this playoff game, looking forward to the subsequent playoff game that you guys play in the semifinals in 2014. How did that, the feeling of the 2014 regular season going into the playoffs versus like the 2013 season where you win the regular season title going into the playoffs, was there any kind of differences in mindsets or approach to things, being, like a 1 seed versus a 4 seed, anything like that?
For me, not really. I think, like I'd mentioned before, your goal at the beginning of the year is to win a championship. You need to make the playoffs to do that. And so once you're in the playoffs, anything can happen. So for at least in my eyes, I don't think much would change. Like you go into a game, thinking that you can win. And I think anytime you're in a situation like this, that you would believe that to be the case. So for me, not much of a difference, at least.
Yeah, I think when I look back on this, I remember after winning this game, and what you mentioned, Nathan, earlier, was that Orlando had actually lost to Harrisburg. So I don't think it was a case of necessarily looking ahead or taking Harrisburg lightly, which was the team I think we ended up losing to. But I certainly did feel like we were definitely going to be favored, with Harrisburg being the 8th seed in that next matchup after this one. And it didn't quite work out, but I know our thinking was definitely, we were confident, we were ready to go into it. I don't think we were overconfident, but it was definitely one of those ones where we felt like once Orlando was out, we could really go on and win it. It was just unfortunate that wasn't the case.
I actually am having a hard time recalling the game we got knocked out in, just in terms of like how the game went and opportunities we had versus some of that stuff, because again that's what happens in the playoffs, is like anything can happen. And like Connor said, we probably were the favorite and get knocked out in that game. So and that's why for me, when you're in the playoffs, you just have the same mindset going out and having, you want to have your best performance as an athlete at that moment, because that's what you're out there to do.
So I was able to pull up the match report. It looks like, so that was at City Stadium. City Islanders ended up winning 3-2. They drew blood first, scored in the 27th minute. Jason Heisley came right back, scored 5 minutes later in the 32nd. And then looks like they were able to get a goal right before the end of the first half. Jameel Hardware scored that one in the 45th minute. And then Danny DePrima made a 3-1 in the 76th minute before Connor, you scored in the 79th. So,
yeah, no, I actually remember that game a little bit more than Deli probably does. But I think to his point, it was, one of those playoff games where kind of anything can happen. And, 3-2 in the scoreline probably reflects that, where, once goals go in, they change games, and especially they change playoff games. So unfortunately for us, we were on the wrong side of that one.
Oh, there's the double red cards right here.
Yeah, so I mean, from our standpoint, obviously, and I think anytime you're in the situation, you don't want to go to penalty kicks, unless you're like scrapping to hold it. If you're holding on by the skin of your teeth, but basically, there's not long left, and you want to get that goal. You don't want it to be like the flip of a coin with penalty kicks. Like we still definitely want to find a way to score a goal before penalties come.
So at this point, you've got 2 red cards, and now both teams are going down to 10 men. Does that change anything at all as far as approach or how you want to, handle the rest of extra time? Does it open things up a little bit with, 2 less people on the field?
Yeah, I think, kind of what Deli said is not wanting to go into a shootout in the first place would be something that, especially with 10 men, you probably start to think that there is going to be a goal at some point. So, yeah, we would just be, trying to be on the front foot and thinking that, if a goal is going to come, we want it to be us.
Yeah, no, at this point of the game, guys are tired. It could come down to like a mental error or, someone, in this case, you could potentially bring on fresh legs or someone that could take advantage of a situation where another player is tired. So, that's why it's really important that, kind of guys like yourself are obviously very careful in the back and don't make any mistakes. And then on the other side, the guys up front are trying to pounce on something or just get some type of opportunity.
Yeah, just one minor correction. So this wasn't when the double red happens. That's actually in the 120th minute. So this was just an ejection for Charleston. So at this point, they're down, to 10 men, and you guys still have 11 on the pitch.
Yeah, so that we definitely are gonna come out, I think, aggressively for this second overtime to get the goal, especially being a man up. You would think Charleston at this point would probably be happy with penalties. They're playing on the road. They're down a man. They would take penalties at this point, I feel like. And from our standpoint, we want to go out and get this goal.
Got Ryan Taylor getting jazzed up a little bit with the Red Army there.
Deli, do you remember what you would be thinking on the bench? Would you just be itching to get in, or would you be – obviously I know you had your quad, but I'm sure you were just kind of chomping at the bit to get in.
Yeah, it was a funny one for me because I wasn't fully fit to go. Otherwise, I would imagine I would have been in already. And I unfortunately just simply wasn't 100%. After that quad tear, so the decision was made to basically bring me in for a penalty kick. That was kind of like the reasoning behind coming into this game. But yeah, had I been healthy, I of course 100% would love to get into the game at this point and have that opportunity. And it's just funny the way it worked out. I never thought I would come on and even have a chance. I mean, I literally was coming on to take a penalty kick. So it was a pretty crazy couple of minutes, basically.
Watching this game back, are you seeing anything from Charleston's defense where you think that had you been fully fit, how you would have tried to approach the game, and how you would have tried to attack them?
For me, not really, because my game was really based around service, and so my job would have been just getting myself in the box and then hoping that someone like a Sasha or whoever's on is going to deliver a good ball, and so I would just be a big body in the box and hope to get an opportunity. So I don't think it was a case of where I needed to look and find and poke holes. I would just have to get myself in the box and hope for some good service, basically. And as it happens, I think it was Juan was able to whip in a great ball, and I managed to get myself on the end of it.
All right. And of course, as we kind of keep alluding to here, we're down to the final few minutes here of the second period of extra time in the quarterfinals. So if any fans have any questions for Connor or Deli here that they'd like to get off here before the big moment, we're here to answer them. So send them through the comments. And of course, now Patrick's reminding me too that not only did Juan get the assist, but he was also one of the red card receivers in the 120th minute. So he had a busy like 3-4 minutes there.
That sounds more like Alex Lee to me. Something that he'd do, a great service or something, and then a red card.
So if I'm looking at these stats right, I believe this is Juan's first assist of the season was the one for you, Deli.
Was that?
Yeah, couldn't have come at a better time, right?
Yeah, no, I'm not sure. One was obviously not really a starter throughout the year, but that's a beautiful thing. You know, he gets to come in and into a playoff game and have a huge impact and help us move on against one of our fiercest rivals. And so, like we were talking about before, about people being able to step up and do things, and it's great being able to rely on teammates across the board.
I didn't see it. Did he pick up a knock from a tackle, or is he cramping up right now?
It could be a little bit of both, maybe.
Yeah. He's reminded me of like when my dad used to run half marathons, and he'd come home because he never ever got enough fluids back into his system, and all of a sudden, you know, he'd be sitting on the chair and just start screaming, and because he cramped up, and we'd have to go rush to get him a Gatorade or something.
I couldn't tell. He looked like he was in discomfort, though, for sure.
Yeah. I don't know if there's a question for Deli or for Patrick here, but Matt Myers wants to know how many extra time and stoppage time winners Deli had. Seems to be convinced there was quite a few.
I know the one in 2009 against Harrisburg was like 120th minute goal, so that one was pretty dramatic. And then obviously this one being very late, so it's definitely these are some kind of memorable like career type goals where they're the ones that you do remember that don't happen very often.
I'm still trying to get used to not seeing the stands right behind the goals right now. Like when, you know, they stuck Charleston Battery right there, where now that's the lead up to where you go for the decks. Giving me a moment of nostalgia.
You can see here it'd be nice to have, you know, the man advantage at this point where we really get to start to push. In Charleston would be even more fatigued than normal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to drop in pretty deep at this point, and you see that they're like line of midfield four are pretty close to their back four, so they're just going to try and keep a lot of bodies between the ball and the goal. You see the goalkeeper taking his time, so I mean, they want to get out of here with penalty kicks at this point. Kind of might be actually a little bit of a nicer passage for you guys in the back, just to not have to worry so much. You know, now it's about just playing some quality forward versus actually defending.
Yeah, certainly you can not take your foot off the gas, but like you said, maybe focus a little bit more on just making sure that you guys get good service, or at least it gets into the midfield a little bit more secure.
Is that Huey as well? We brought in, but he's not. He's playing a little more attacking there.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Hugh's been a center back, but he's always been one of those center backs that can pop up with a timely goal as well. So I think getting him on, that kind of would have been the idea. Just another big body in the box. I remember him scoring a few important goals for us this season, and even throughout his career, he's done it kind of wherever he's been. He's been somebody that's really difficult to defend, especially in the box.
Yeah, Hugh and Alex, I think we did. It might have been the season where we did the vertical jump, and it was I think Huey had the highest jump on the team. So obviously a big aerial threat in the box.
Yeah, a couple notes that I've got coming across my screen. It turns out Hugh was actually a sub for a sub, which is not something you get to see very often. But apparently he was a forward before he got to college, and he converted to defense. So he's one of those tweeners where he's still got a little bit of that offensive game in him. So when it's called upon, he can dish it out.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Alex Lee was as well.
Yeah.
So Alex was an attacking player. And Jason Heisley was trained as a centre back too, so he's another guy that could kind of do both jobs, and had to do that for a time for the kickers where he had to drop back as a centre back.
Deli, I take it none of that for you. No centre back experience?
No, unfortunately not. I was a right winger as a teenager, and then I kind of turned into a target forward, and pretty much remained as a target forward. Although I fancied myself as a midfielder in training sometimes.
Did you? I do that now, but I just always get thrown to the back. They don't even give me a run out anymore.
Not even a chance at the 6?
No. I try to step myself in there, and people just kind of laugh and push me back, and I willingly accept.
There's a moment there, obviously, where they just pump it forward, and you guys have to be very careful, with a run from Kelly in behind. So that's one of those moments where you definitely don't want to switch off. You and Yombi dealt with it well, so it was good.
That was something that Yombi would have been really good at. Anything in the air, anything into the channel. It was nice for me being his partner, just having him cover those areas. He was really, really good at that. So he could do a lot of the mopping up, and it made my job definitely a lot easier.
Yeah, and for you, Connor, when you finally paired up with Yombi at that point, he was very much a veteran as well in his career, kind of part of that old guard of like the team that we, discussed in the 2009 season. What was it like as a young professional yourself getting to play with a guy like Yombi and, gain his tutelage and learn from him?
Yeah, he was incredible. Kind of like you said, not just the stuff on the field, but him being one of the leaders in that team. All of you guys, Deli, were really good to me. But Yombi in particular, because he was a center back, it was, a joy to play next to him. He was someone that really, really helped me. And I think he was a big part of the reason why I ended up having a couple good seasons. And obviously he was a big reason why we won that 2013 regular season title, which was nice to have something to show for our, some of those long unbeaten runs and some of the success we did have. It's cool to have something to show for that. Here's the moment.
Here we go.
Yeah. I think obviously the logic here coming on to potentially take a penalty, but coming on at this moment, like the ball's down in their end, so just again hoping that something might happen, and so.
Camera guy wasn't even ready for it. Oh man!
Yeah, there was some debate about whether it was offside, but obviously an unbelievable feeling for the whole team. Again, like with these are the moments when the season's on the line, and so I think everyone. And it's funny because you see me actually fall over, but I was actually trying to protect my quad, because I think if I had stepped, it probably would have gone again.
Oh man. Yeah, I mean, what are you thinking as you're walking onto the pitch, knowing kind of how your legs feeling, and you're not 100%, or what's your strategy?
I think that's one of the reasons why I came on with like less than 3 minutes, because if I had gone out and it's hard to not push yourself at 100%. That's the thing about coming back from injuries. And so that was one of the reasons why we did limit the minutes, because if I had been out there, I think I would have re-injured myself. So it ended up being the smart decision. And just, a little bit of luck that the ball ended up coming to me the way it did.
Yeah. It's almost like Lee was playing chicken with the clock, knowing that at the 117th minute, what are the opportunities for you to get one last sub in? So at that point, he's probably just weighing the risk with you as far as how long you could be on there.
Yeah, I'm sure that's an awful feeling. Been in games before like that where you come on and suddenly the team scores, and it's not a great feeling. Thanks, Ivan.
Yeah, I'll say as well, Deli, coming into the game as a defender and trying to hold on to something is obviously a much different mindset than coming in and trying to score. So, I know it can be really difficult to come in and concede. And like I said, it's just a different mindset when you come in and have to protect something.
So at this point, with Deli scoring, you got about 3 minutes left. You got the 2-1 lead. They're at a disadvantage because they've only got 10 men, whereas you got 11. So at this point, I'm sure Lee's just telling you pack it in, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, the best way to close out the game is obviously keep possession of the ball. If we have the ball, they can't score. So you can see here we're going taking it to the corner. The longer we can keep possession of the ball, the better it's going to be. But obviously, if we do lose it, getting everyone behind the ball quickly.
Mm-hmm.
These would be the moments, obviously we keep it there, I guess, but had that turned over where we'd all be just flying back, making sure that, like you said, we don't concede anything stupid, anything late.
Patrick just reminded me, it's Mike Berkey, his most hated move is taking the ball to the corner, apparently. I believe he was telling us that during the 2009 final.
Yeah, he did say that.
Is it because he was playing on the wing, and so, or at least at like a wide midfielder, and so chances are he was most likely to have the one in the corner, and he's probably getting his legs kicked?
Yeah, and I wasn't sure if he was referring to he hated it when the other team did it versus. Oh, you kind of picked up a yellow there.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that was.
And this is the double red you were talking about, Nathan.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah, and obviously, emotions running high at this point, because like we said, you've literally spent an entire year working to get to this moment, and obviously now Charleston's down a goal, and we've been in this position and been knocked out. It's not a nice feeling at all. So easy for emotions to take over a little bit.
It looks like Charleston probably has a free kick just outside the box. Is that right, Nathan? Do you know?
That one I'm not sure about. I'm sure I'm going to get a message from Patrick in about 2 seconds here.
It looked like I maybe fouled someone, and that's why I got the yellow card, leading to them having a chance. So this would be a moment where my heart would be in my mouth a little bit, just hoping that they don't score on this free kick or anything.
Yeah, I mean, it's, again, being up a man, a set piece is probably one of the few opportunities you would get to score when you're down a goal. And so this is probably one of the last kicks of the game in a really dangerous spot. So definitely a nervous few seconds coming up.
I'm still not sure why I got a yellow card. Maybe Patrick can get on that one. Was it a foul, Patrick? Come on, Patrick.
It was a foul. Come on, you got to ride with your guys, Patrick. It was really a bad call by the ref.
Yeah.
So also an interesting spot here because you're definitely in range for shooting, but again, if you put this in, clip this in, it could also be really dangerous. So Pat mentioning about making a decision about what to do here. And so you see he went for goal. That's a tough one. Like I know Patrick had just asked about those moments, like, maybe dinking it into the 6-yard box could have been better. Or, if you have someone, if you have a Cristiano Ronaldo stepping up, obviously they're probably going to shoot that. So lucky for us, it was off target.
Yeah, that'd be a big moment of relief for me.
Yeah.
And now at this point, Ryan is just milking every last second he can without getting a yellow.
Deli, I'd imagine if you were fully fit, that goal kick would have been going to you, and right on your head, being our biggest target up there and someone who could jump with your ability. But unfortunately, we concede and have one more to deal with.
Yeah.
I think I remember this, Deli.
The one-man wall.
Even those, they're never fun to have to deal with when it just gets lumped into the box. You can see it's quite a scramble.
It's a good thing that they moved the cameras to the east stand because there's been this one person's hat that keeps getting in the way in certain crowd shots.
Deli, does it make you miss playing at all? When you rewatch something like this and you see kind of, the relief and scoring a goal. I know for me, it makes me miss playing and makes me want to get back out there when you see stuff like this.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, anytime I come out to City Stadium, I obviously miss being out in the field and re-seeing some of these games and whatnot. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, spent a large part of my life doing that. And I've been away from the game now for a few years, and that's one of the things is when you make that choice to retire, it's like, my dad always said, you're a long time retired because like you basically, unless you're Mike Burke, you don't go back. So yeah, and that's right, Matt. Like beating Charleston in the playoffs is, it's huge. They've been a big rival, and beating them anytime, especially in the playoffs, was always a great feeling.
So as we said earlier too, Kickers win 2-1 in the quarterfinals of the 2014 playoffs. Unfortunately, they would host again in the semifinals and lose to the 8th seed Harrisburg City Islanders, who would then go on to lose to the Sacramento Republic in the final, which seemed to be quite a wild affair too, especially if you got a Pennsylvania team having to play against a California team. It's not something that you get to see very often. And it's nice too, the way the USL championships kind of split the leagues now. It's made an interesting series for the way the playoffs work out. But at the most important thing is we get to remember Deli's moment right here in the 117th minute with the game winner. Thankfully, camera technology's gotten a little better since 2014. It would have been a clearer picture possibly, but all in all,
I think it might have been my only touch. Actually, I don't know if I touched the ball again.
No, because he didn't. The wall didn't block that long free kick right there. So
the one-man wall.
No, but it was these are obviously great memories and things that remember for a long time, and getting to play with Connor and some of these guys that were awesome guys and awesome friends, and I think we have made some great memories for ourselves and for our friends and family and fans.
Certainly.
Yep. Well, and that concludes this edition of Deja Vu. Deli is now our first multi-episode participant, so hoping to get some more people on the list. Right now, you're on the Deja Vu Mount Rushmore, and it's infancy as a series. Hopefully, we get to table it for a little while in the coming month. But at least for now, we are going to take next week off with it being the 4th of July holiday. So we hope everybody has a nice, safe holiday for that. We'll be back on July 11th for the 6th edition of Deja Vu, presented by Absolute Stone Design. We will announce that game in the near future, too, once we have everything put together. Oh, man.
It's cold.
Hope he's eating good.
Need to have a word with someone.
Yeah. Well, if I gotta watch both of you, I gotta wrap this show up so I can go make my peanut butter and jelly. So for Connor Shinatsky, Matthew Delica, I'm Nathan Heinschel. It's been a pleasure having you guys here for Deja Vu, and we will see you soon.
All right.
Thanks, guys. See you,
Thanks, everyone.
When building our home, I knew that the stone was going to be the absolute foundation to our house. I knew it needed to be durable, but also I wanted it to be beautiful. I love working with Absolute Stone Design because their customer service is top-notch, their staff is super friendly, and most of all, they truly care.
Come explore Absolute Stone Design's reimagined showroom, featuring our all-new shower and flooring galleries. No dream home is complete without Absolute Stone Design.
Most auto insurers love when you have 2 cars, and they love it even more when you have a driveway full, because they get to charge you more. At Elephant Insurance, we believe the more cars you have, the more you save. We call it the Elephant Multi-Car Discount. It's like buying in bulk, and you can save up to 25%. Take control of your car insurance. Quote online today and see what you can save at elephant.com.
You are the center of a universe. That's what we've learned in 160 years serving our community. Everybody means the world to someone. So when you're in here, or if someday you find yourself in here, and when all you can think about is the world that revolves around you, we'll be a world that revolves around you too. Bon Secours, healthcare for the universe of you.